She sized him up, called him a nobody, and walked away. What she didn't know, he was the man quietly collecting the proof that would ruin her. They weren't wrong about the Judge Corliss Denham. She didn't waste time. And that morning proved it. It was 9:06 a.m. on a freezing February Tuesday, and Courtroom 2, Beat 2 in the Winnebago County Courthouse was already thick with tension, the kind that settles in your chest before you even notice you're holding your breath. A few lawyers shuffled papers, the clerk called names without looking up. No small talk, just business. Judge Denham sat high behind the bench like she'd been chiseled into it. Early 60s, sharp chin, hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Her robe hung like armor. She tapped her pen in a rhythm that said, no delays, no questions, no arguing. The next name on the list, State of Illinois versus Clarissa Wynn. The case wasn't special. Petty theft, second offense, minor property damage. But what happened next? That wasn't normal. A man stood from the second row and walked to the podium. Calm, precise. Mid to late 40s. Well-trimmed beard, dark grey overcoat. No briefcase, no badge, just a small leather notebook in one hand. His voice was steady. Good morning, Your Honor. I'm Reuben Castle. I'm here as a procedural advisor for Mrs. Wynn. I've reviewed... Judge Denham didn't let him finish. She leaned forward, lips tight. And who exactly are you supposed to be? Reuben paused, blinked once. I'm assisting the defense. Are you licensed to practice in this state? Her voice sharpened, loud enough for the whole room to hear. No, ma'am, I'm not representing her legally. Double asterisk. Denham waved her hand like swatting a fly. Then I'm not interested. I've got a courtroom full of real attorneys waiting. We don't have time for nobodies wasting this court's resources. The air shifted. Heads turned. One woman looked up from her phone. The court reporter's fingers froze. Even the bailiff stiffened, like he wasn't sure if he should step in. Reuben didn't flinch. He nodded once, stepped back, sat in the last row. No anger, no comeback, just a quiet note scribbled in his book. Clarissa Wynn's case wrapped in 3 minutes. Bail reaffirmed, next case called. And, just like that, Reuben was gone. No one saw him leave. He didn't speak to anyone, but his silence didn't feel like defeat. It felt like a choice. Back at the clerk's desk, nobody said a word, but they were thinking it. That tone, that word, nobody. It didn't sound professional, didn't feel right. It clung to the walls. One public defender, a young woman named Lydia Crowley, whispered to the lawyer beside her. She's going to regret that. The other lawyer just raised an eyebrow, not agreeing, not disagreeing. Just that look people give when they know something's coming, but won't say it out loud because Judge Denham had power. And power like that, people usually protect it. Until they can't. But what nobody in that courtroom knew, what Judge Denham definitely didn't know, was, well, who Reuben Castle really was. Reuben wasn't the type to react fast. He never raised his voice, never rushed his words. He was the kind of man who understood the weight of silence and the danger of underestimating it. Most of his life, people judged him by the surface. Too quiet, too plain, too polite. But underneath, a razor-sharp mind honed over the 20 years of internal investigations, federal oversight, and watching powerful people talk themselves into disaster. 4 months earlier, Reuben had been named Chief Inspector of Internal Judicial Affairs. The job wasn't glamorous. No press conferences, no interviews. Just one order: investigate judicial misconduct in Illinois courtrooms. Quietly, thoroughly, without warning. That morning in Rockford, not a coincidence. Denham's courtroom had crossed his desk 6 times in 2 years. Not enough for a scandal, just enough whispers to suggest something wasn't right. Anonymous complaints about her temper, The way she treated defendants who didn't look like her. How she cut people off, mocked the ones without fancy degrees. Nothing explosive, just a pattern that smelled like smoke. So Reuben drove down from Springfield. No badge, no assistant, under a fake name. He wanted to see it himself. Hear her words, watch her body language. He believed in truth, but he believed in proof even more. He arrived early, saw the bailiff tense when she walked in, heard a public defender mutter, "Just survived the morning." The chill in that room wasn't just from the winter outside, it came from her bench. And when she called him a "you've been nobody," that was all the confirmation he needed. But Reuben didn't react like most would. He didn't demand respect, didn't announce who he was. That wasn't his way. He knew true power reveals itself best when it's underestimated. And now he had it. Her own words. Said publicly, recorded on the court's feed, witnessed by a room full of lawyers. By the time Reuben reached his car, he'd already written the first 3 bullet points of his report. He sat in the driver's seat, engine off, eyes locked ahead. 1. Verbal dismissal of procedural advisor without cause. 2. Use of the term nobody toward a non-disruptive individual. 3. No attempt to verify credentials before public reprimand. He paused, then added, "Courtroom reaction suggests this is not an isolated incident." He didn't need drama. Facts would do just fine. And that afternoon, Reuben made 2 phone calls. The first to the oversight board, notifying them of a pending formal review. The second to Bryn Ashford, a data analyst in his department known for digging through years of court records and pulling hidden patterns. Reuben kept his voice steady. Pull everything on Judge Corliss Denham, rulings, transcripts, courtroom footage, public and private, start 7 years back, flag every case with a self-represented defendant, filter by race, gender, and sentencing length. Bryn paused. Are we expecting something big? Reuben exhaled, eyes on his notebook. I think we already have it on tape. But before anything became official, he had to be sure. If Denham was what he suspected, the court system had a routine deeper than anyone wanted to admit. Judge Corliss Denham's office wasn't lavish, just 2 large windows, an overstuffed bookshelf of outdated law books, and a heavy wooden desk that had been there longer than she had. But to her, this room was a fortress. A place where she didn't have to hold back, where formality dropped and the robe came off, figuratively, if not literally. That afternoon, with court adjourned and the hallway emptying, she paced behind her desk, flipping through the next day's schedule. 3 more public defenders tomorrow, she muttered. And another one of those TikTok lawyers, can't wait. Her assistant, Valena Morse, soft-spoken, early 30s, fresh out of law school, stood quietly by a filing cabinet, arms crossed. Valena had heard things in this office she wasn't sure she should hear. But she took notes, nodded when expected, and stayed in her lane. Today, though, something felt different. She cleared her throat. Judge, about that man from the Wynne hearing, Reuben Castle, do we know who he was? Denham waved a hand. Some street paralegal playing courtroom hero. You heard him. Probably Googled a few legal terms and thought he'd test me. Valena hesitated. He didn't interrupt. He was polite. Denham's eyes snapped up. You think I was too harsh? Valena glanced at the bookshelf, then the carpet, then back at the judge. Calling him a nobody in front of everyone, it just felt strong. Denham leaned back, scoffing. You're young. You think court is about fairness and feelings. It's not. It's about control. If I lose control in that room, I lose respect. And respect is the only thing keeping this system from eating itself alive. Valena didn't argue, but she didn't agree either. She gathered her paperwork and left, the door slightly open behind her. Down the hall, bailiff for Jeremy Haskins. Sipped coffee at his post. As Valena passed, he gave her a look. Not unkind, just knowing. Starting to see it too, huh? Verlena slowed. See what? Jeremy exhaled, glancing toward Denham's chambers. She's been like this for years. Picks who she talks down to, depends on the face, the tone, the shoes. Work with her long enough, you know when it's coming. Verlena glanced around. Does anyone report it? He shook his head. Some tried, nothing sticks. She's smart, never swears, never yells, never threatens, just enough to make you feel small. Verlena didn't reply, but when she reached her desk, she opened her laptop and typed, Reuben Castle. What she found surprised her. A buried legal newsletter article, new appointment to internal judicial affairs, background in ethics investigations, federal auditing, procedural reform, former assistant U.S. attorney, known for discretion. Verlena leaned back in her chair. That was no street paralegal. That wasn't just some random observer, that was someone who could make investigations stick. Meanwhile, across town, Reuben sat at a hotel desk, laptop glowing as he reviewed a 6-month-old courtroom transcript. There it was, Denham cutting off a defendant mid-sentence, issuing a contempt warning just for attitude. No swearing, no threats, just that razor-sharp tone. He highlighted the section and kept scrolling. While Reuben connected these damning dots and while Verlena asked her quiet questions, Judge Denham remained blissfully unaware. The walls were already closing in. By Thursday, Judge Denham's courtroom ran like clockwork. She hadn't given Reuben Castle a second thought since he'd left, just another nuisance trying to poke holes in a system that demanded order. But elsewhere, the machinery of justice was turning. 8 a.m. Reuben hit send from his hotel room, uploading a confidential file, preliminary findings, 3 damning video clips, and a request for 7 years of Courtroom 2B's audio transcripts. The system pinged twice in confirmation. 9 a.m. Bryn Ashford, his analyst back in Springfield, had already combed through 86 of Denham's hearings. Her screen flickered with color-coded notes and statistical overlays. She called Reuben, 17 cases where she interrupted non-attorneys within 10 seconds, 14 involved black or Latino defendants. Reuben stayed silent as Bryn continued. Her word count drops 22% with non-white defendants. Tone shifts dramatically. With white defendants or private attorneys, civil, methodical. With others, she cuts, she mocks. It's all in the data. Any complaints? Reuben finally asked. 3 formal, 7 anonymous. One even mentions her calling someone irrelevant. A pause. Guess whose name showed up? Verlena Morse filed a vague statement last week. Reuben stood by his hotel window, watching snow gather on the glass. She's paying attention. At the courthouse, Verlena wasn't just paying attention. She was staring at her desk like it might bite her. That morning, an unsigned email had appeared. You're not wrong. Be ready. Meanwhile, Judge Denham presided over an eviction fraud case involving a trembling single mother. When the woman tried explaining a missed deadline, Denham cut her off in 40 seconds flat, accusing her of playing games with the system. The public defender winced. And Reuben? He watched the live internal feed, part of the judicial accountability program few judges remembered. His fingers flew. Mocking tone during hardship testimony. No attempt to clarify. Another mark in the growing file. By afternoon, the review team had enough. A formal inquiry opened quietly, which meant 2 things. 1. Judge Denham would be notified within 2 hours. 2. An evaluation team would arrive under the guise of routine training review. Reuben knew what usually happened next. Most judges either cleaned up their act or got defensive. But Denham? He wasn't sure yet. That evening he called Bryn. Would you walk back into her courtroom next week? Bryn didn't hesitate. Absolutely. Let her show you who she is again. A faint smile. That's the plan. Because Denham was about to learn a hard lesson. She hadn't just insulted a man. She'd awakened a system designed to hold people like her accountable. Friday morning didn't just bring cold wind, it brought watching eyes. It started small, A grainy courtroom photo appeared on the Bearden Report, a local blog run by a retired journalist. The caption burned beneath it. Judge calls black advisor nobody during hearing. Question is, who was he really? No clickbait, no speculation, just facts. By noon, the post had spread like wildfire, 800 shares and climbing. A Peoria civil rights group amplified it with their own sting. It's 2025. Is this how our courts treat black professionals? Judge Denham learned about it the way all powerful people eventually learn their missteps, through a colleague's terse text. You're in the news. Call me. Bexley. She didn't call. Instead, she opened her laptop and saw her own frozen image, eyes narrowed, mouth twisted mid-sentence. Below it, the hammer blow. Confirmed, Reuben Castle is Chief Inspector of Internal Judicial Affairs. The colour drained from her face. Across the hall, Verlena kept her head down, but the whispers followed her everywhere. In the clerk's office, pens stopped moving when she entered. Even Jeremy the bailiff hid his phone, his usual grin absent. 2 public defenders huddled by the break-room coffee machine. He's not auditing, he's here for her. About damn time. By 2 p.m., local radio picked it up. Host Tamara Green played the damning clip without context. We don't have time for nobody's wasting this court's resources. Denham's own voice, cold and clear, spilled into 100 cars. By dusk they came, first in 2s and 3s, then 24 strong, thermoses in hand, signs reading, "Dignity not equal privilege." They played audio clips of past hearings on crackling speakers. A man stood on a crate, breath fogging in the cold. I testified about her 3 years ago. Nobody believed me until today. Reuben watched the live stream from his hotel, noting not the protest itself, but the reactions. Systems needed proof, but people needed voices. Behind drawn blinds, Denham's phone rang with a number she didn't recognize. Judge Denham, came the clipped tone of an oversight administrator. You're hereby notified of an official audit into your courtroom conduct spanning 7 years. Documentation arrives Monday. Staff may request reassignment during review. Click. In the outer office, Verlena silently packed her bag. She didn't know what came next, only that she wouldn't be at that bench on Monday. The courthouse hummed, with a tension no one named but everyone felt. Doors stayed shut too long. Eye contact broke a second too soon. Denham entered through the side door, suit pressed, expression schooled, but the aura of invincibility gone. In courtroom 2B, 3 unfamiliar faces sat in the second row. No pads, no files, just observing. One was Reuben Castle, no suit today, just a dark sweater and quiet shoes, but his presence filled the room. Denham spotted him instantly. That half-second hesitation as she took the bench. Everyone noticed. The first 2 hearings ran with unnatural precision. Thank you for clarifying. Let's ensure we understand fully. Regulars exchanged glances. This wasn't their judge. Then came case number 3. Terrell Gaines, nervous, stuttering through answers. His overworked PD requested a continuance for missing documents. Routine. Denham paused. The courtroom held its breath. And in that pause, the mask slipped. This is the second time you've asked for more time. This is a courtroom, not a daycare. A quiet ripple moved through the gallery. Someone shifted in their seat. Reuben's pen moved across his notepad. The public defender remained calm. Your Honour, I'd remind the court discovery was delayed by the prosecution. Denham straightened. I'm aware. Proceed. It wasn't explosive. It didn't need to be. The damage was done. 3 hours later, Denham entered a second-floor conference room to find 2 oversight board members, an ethics officer, and Reuben Cassell waiting at a long table. Her heels clicked softly on tile. Judge Denham, Reuben began, folder open before him, do you remember referring to a court participant last Tuesday as a nobody? Her throat tightened. I remember someone inserting themselves without standing. I handled it appropriately. Reuben nodded. Did you verify who I was first? Silence. Because I wasn't there to test you. he continued. Your courtroom had been flagged. I came with no assumptions, only to observe. He paused. And I did. A board member added, We've reviewed 42 hearings. The pattern is clear. Disproportionate interruptions, inconsistent tone, public humiliation. Denham's clasped hands didn't move. Reuben leaned forward slightly. Control without fairness isn't justice, it's performance. For the first time in her career, Corliss Denham had no rebuttal. That single word, nobody, had opened a door even she couldn't close. By Thursday, the official statement came. Judge Corliss Denham suspended pending disciplinary hearing. No fanfare, just a quiet press release. Local news showed two contrasting images. 1. Denham exiting court flanked by lawyers, face stone-like. 2. Reuben speaking calmly outside. No one enjoys accountability. But when you hold authority in a place people come for justice, you treat every person with dignity, whether they wear a suit or a second-hand coat. The quote spread, not viral, but resonant. In a North Side home. Denham sat stiffly on her couch, court shoes still on, watching muted TV. The phone hadn't rung. The aspirin bottle by the sink was half empty. When she closed her eyes, she saw Reuben's face, not gloating, just certain. She could fight the hearing, spin the narrative, but she knew the truth. That moment hadn't been a slip. It had been who she was. Downtown, Reuben addressed law interns. Bias doesn't always wear a hood. Sometimes it sits behind a bench. Sometimes it smiles, but it always leaves marks. A student asked, "Do you think she meant it?" "I don't care if she meant it," Reuben said. "I care that she said it without hesitation." He closed his notebook. Every person walking into a courtroom brings their whole story, their trauma, their hope. Don't be the reason they stop believing justice exists. By spring, the changes in Rockford's legal circles were subtle but real. Clerks spoke more freely, public defenders stood taller, defendants no longer felt the walls closing. Denham resigned before her hearing. Personal reasons, the letter said. Pride intact, if nothing else. Valina Morse took an appellate clerkship in St. Louis, leaving Reuben a note. "Thank you for making someone listen." He kept it folded behind his list of flagged courtrooms. Months later, at a Bloomington law school, a student asked Reuben why he entered oversight. "When I was young," he said, "my cousin got a year for breaking a window." The judge called him a statistic without looking up. Reuben scanned the room. People behave differently when they know they're being watched, but when they think no one is, that's when you see who they really are. Back in Rockford's courthouse, hearings continued under new judges, but something fundamental had shifted, the awareness that someone might be listening. For those who'd sat silenced for years, this mattered. Because justice isn't just about the gavel, sometimes it's the quiet observer, pen in hand, waiting for the right moment to speak.